Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Kobalt 24 volt max brushless 23 gauge pin nailer. Lots of numbers and a lot of words to say that we've got the tool that you need for reattaching trim around your house. Something that I think is very exciting because I love my 23 gauge pin nailer that I've had for a long time because it's my secret sauce for painting, because I can take the trim off and put it back on and have this nice, beautifully, perfectly painted wall and replace all sorts of other small little odds and ends repairs around the house. But now with this, if this lives up to its promise, I don't need to carry on the air compressor and the whip hose, make all that extra noise ramping up just to be able to throw in a few pins to put something back together. So we got this new nailer here from Kobalt. We got the brad nailer first, then we got the finish nailer, we got a stapler, and now we've got this. So this is the fourth Kobalt tool that we've got that are in that nailer family of tools. Turning around, looking at the back on this brand new tool for 2025, we've got on the spec side here of up to 3 nails per second, tool-free jam release, up to 2,200 nails per charge with a 2 amp hour battery. With stats like that, if that's true, I can't imagine why you'd want an even bigger battery on that. And a tool-free depth adjustment, even includes an LED work light, something your pneumatic tools probably don't have. Dry fire lockout, again, a nice feature to protect the health of the tool, and a belt clip. So let's take a look at and see what you get in the box here. Not a lot is on the website about this right now, but we're all going to find out together. All right, so here's what we got out of the box. All right, take the extra cardboard out, set that to the side. We've got our manual, and we've got a belt clip here. And then we have the tool right here. And let's actually open up this other bag here. We'll take a look at this here in a bit, this 24 volt product lineup card. We got our belt clip, and this is the bent clip that should accommodate our XTR batteries, or ultimate output batteries. And then we've got the manual. What I'm looking for is if there's any nails included with this. Let's open this up, and I am not seeing any nails included with this tool. It is indeed a bare tool and does not have a, quote, starter set of pin nails. Interesting looking at this, you can see the bottom right here is kind of a translucent plastic there. And if we look on the tool here, on the back, we've got a couple of extra of these non-marring tips here that are stored on board the tool. That LED light, that's on both sides. It should illuminate down at your workpiece. And then on the front for that tool-free jam release, pull the buckle down, open up the mechanism, but hopefully you won't have to actually do that. And also looking at here on the side here, for reference when it comes to the length of the nail, we've got a 1/2 inch to 1 3/8 inch. That's written right in here to the side of the plastic on the nail. So if you don't have your manual and you're trying to figure out what size of nail you want, well, you've got that right here. We've got some other depth here. Now let me pull out a comparable tool. Just for some comparisons, I've got my Porter Cable 23 gauge pin nailer. This has been my go-to nailer. I think a lot of people have had these Porter Cable PN38 or PN138 nailers. So the Kobalt one's definitely a little bit bigger but remember, this does not have the hose that goes behind it to the compressor. So of course you're going to have the battery and the cylinder here to build the air pressure to make the nailer work. Both of these have a dual action trigger. And this one here, you've got to pull up here and then fire that there. We'll take a look at that in a moment here when we actually put the tool to use. Now on this one, there is metal down here in the nail holding cartridge, whereas this is all plastic. A little disappointed in that. With a little bit of care, it should hold up, but I don't know that you can really just throw this around a job site the same way that you can throw one of these around. But if you reasonably take care of your tools should take care of you. Now before we get started testing the tool, let's do a couple of quick measurements. So let's weigh on the scale my Porter Cable PIN 138. That comes in at 2.178 pounds. not including the hose, not including the compressor. Now, if we take this tool, not including a battery, we're at 3.85, 3.86 pounds. Let's add on a 2 amp hour battery, and we're at 4.888 pounds. So we're just under 5 pounds there. So definitely a little heavier than this. But again, there's not a whip hose, there's not a compressor. Obviously there's trade-offs here in what you're doing. I think if this works the way that I hope it will, this could save a lot of time on having to pull the compressor, the cords, and everything else with it, and just have a whole extra set of batteries and being good to go. All right, so let's do a little test here. All right, now, first things first, we're going to need to add some nails. So we're going to open this up here like this. In this case here, let's just go ahead and go for the 1 3/8" nails, which is the maximum length according to what's on the side of the tool here. I'm going to take a set of these nails. And when you look at these nails, you'll notice there is a set of arrows. Hopefully that comes through on camera there. They're pointing down for which way is towards the bottom. My first little observation is it feels like this magazine here is just a little bit shorter than I would prefer to be able to hold some more nails. I wish this were a little bit longer so I could put maybe 2 sheets of these in. Just a personal opinion on this here. All right, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and close this up. There we go. All right. If you saw that little struggle there, I had to get this foot behind that far bit there. Close it up, and now I can see exactly through this little translucent plastic that I've got nails there. Now you also notice when I was loading this, I did not have the battery on. That's one of the things that makes it maybe a little bit easier or a little bit more complicated, depending on your perspective, with these battery-operated nailers, is don't forget to take the power off so you don't accidentally hurt yourself with the nailer. Obviously, you disconnect it from the pneumatic line if it's a pneumatic nailer. The other tool that you're going to need is safety glasses. Anytime that we're working with nailers or any power tools, make sure you got safety glasses. These 3M ones are some of my favorite. Now we'll go ahead and put the battery on. First thing that I see here when it comes to putting it on compared to the other nails, the other Kobalt nailers, there's no other digital buttons here for being able to power it on or anything like that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take a 2x4 here. This is just a scrap one. You can see I've got paint from using paint various things. And we're just going to go ahead and let me put the camera up here a little bit higher. All right, now for our first test, I've got a scrap 2x4 here. Just tell me to put the nails in. We'll go ahead and without making any adjustments out of the box, I'm going to check on this depth here. And so, all right, that didn't go flush, but it definitely went reasonably well into the 2x4. I might need to back that off. With any nailer, you're going to have to play with your depth adjustment. Not surprised. There is no indicator on this that it is ready to fire. There is the dual LED work lights on the side. And if I press the back trigger, turns it on. And that'll stay on for a couple of seconds. There's also no depressing the nose down, like on some pneumatic nailers. If you want to go to rapid fire, you can press it down. Or it just gives you that positive sense of the nailer. In this case here, I'm just going to set it on it. Put my hand on top. Just like that. Now this might be going a little bit too deep. Now I'm going to take this trim piece here. This is a scrap piece of just regular baseboard here. And I'm going to go ahead and try to attach this to the 2x4 here. Like that. Now let's see if that friction set too shallow. Actually, that's still a little bit proud of the surface there. So it looks like I might need to actually make that go a little bit deeper. Otherwise, I'm going to be coming back with a nail set to get those in. So now to make the nail go deeper into the surface, If we look at the guide here, we're going to want to turn this to the right. Let's try there and see if that made any progress. All right, that was just perfect to get it just below the surface, but still enough to have a nice firm connection. And I can run my finger across that, put a little dab of paint on it, and you'll never know that nail was there. And you can see how this firmly holds the baseboard in place up against the wall, which is why I love these 23 gauge pin nailers. Now our final test is going to be trying to simulate attaching this board and getting down low, because one of the challenges, obviously this is more bulky than a pneumatic nailer in some ways, but less bulky because there's not a hose. So one of the things that I need to be able to do is we'll make sure I get the nailer and get down to hit this onto the stud. That's low. It doesn't look like there's much of a problem, but I'm going to have to come in at a little bit of an angle. Now that is just a little bit more proud than I would like. So it looks like you might have to mess with the depth adjustment on that after you get it set for the a straight strike. If you're going to be at an angle, let me set that to go a little bit deeper. There we go. That worked. Now, obviously, the more straight on that you can have the nailer, the better, rather than coming at an angle. Right there. So you might need to play with the depth adjustment a little bit, but that, again, is going to be similar for other nailers. On my pneumatic nailer, when I've had to get low, I've always had to watch out for this little belt clip here, because I could come in and sit sideways like this. But again, I'm managing that whip hose. I'm going back to my compressor. But there was some side with this belt clip here that I could lay it like this. But laying it the other side here, I'd have to come on the side. And it's relatively thin on the nose. And that's probably the biggest difference here, is just the distance from here to here compared to from here to here. So if I look at the tape measure at the new nailer, the longest dimension comes in at just about 10 inches with the battery on. If I look at it from the tip to the very top, we're at about 8.5 inches. And then this lateral offset distance here from the nail line to the front edge of the tool is about 1.5 inches. By comparison, a similar nail line here on this Porter cable is about maybe 1.25 inches, maybe about 1.5 inches all the way back up here at the top. So it's not quite as different as I might have originally thought comparing these tools just by actually looking at the numbers. This one here, you notice it has an Allen key here to remove the front plate here to clear a jam. This one, it's tool free. Kudos on them for getting rid of that. I've barely had to actually relieve any jams with that Allen key, but still, it's one less thing I have to worry about losing. And that'll allow me to use this pin nailer, hopefully in a much simpler and faster and efficient manner. The only efficiency holdback is going to be how many nails can that magazine hold. All right, so to wrap up here right quick here, so if we're coming in at just under $200 at launch, I think it's maybe just a touch pricey, and I'm looking forward to maybe there being some sales on this in the next few weeks, months, or other deals. Maybe buy one, get one, something on this to drop the price down a little bit to make it a little more economical. But overall, I love the idea of having the cordless pin nailer so that you can be able to deal with baseboard and other fine or final punchless carpentry trim items, small woodworking projects, etc., that you might have going around your house, home, shop, or otherwise. My only real complaint with this is just how many nails this holds. I wish it could hold probably about twice as many as it does. Seems like it's a little bit low there. But otherwise, the specs on this, I mean, it performs. Based at least the specs, and it advertises with the 2 amp hour battery. That should be more than enough to get around. I don't really want to put a 4, 6, 8 amp hour battery on this tool. Just like you wouldn't want on a regular hand drill, unless you're doing just a very specific one-off task. The rubber over molding here on top for a second hand is nice. It makes it rather comfortable. And the size up here, yeah, it's a little girthy, but when you put your other hand on it to help control the nailer, it's actually about right and feels good in the hand. Very similar feeling, dual trigger action there. Not a lot of thought required to use this tool. So I'm really excited about this. Happy Kobalt came out with this. And now this leaves only one nailer. Obviously, maybe there's more. One obvious nailer that's left, and that's a framing nailer. Keep your eyes out. There may or may not be something like that on the horizon. And so we're really finally starting to see that Kobalt nailer family really come to life in 2025 over the last couple of years. Remember back when? It's kind of that online meme. Where is that nailer at? Well, now we don't just have one, but we've got multiple for your nailing jobs. Thanks for watching today, and if you liked today's video, go ahead and click that thumbs up, click the subscribe button down there, and ring the bell to get notified of new videos whenever they come out. Look for more great Kobalt content and other exciting tool content, repairs your home, auto shop, and otherwise, right here on the channel. Been around now for over 10 years here on YouTube. Excited to serve you and bring you great content on a regular basis. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day. Bye.